Hello folks, Wolf Ninja here, bringing you another nerdy video. Today, I'm redoing one of my older videos. It was one of the first videos I did in this discussion series, and that was, Sorcerer. Now, I rushed Sorcerer because it was at the time before I started my, D&D broadcasting series, Lunar Guard Adventures. So, I want to retouch on it because, again, I did it because one of the players was completely new to D&D. She wasn't so sure about her class, and I wanted to I wanted to do a video just to quickly give her a quick rundown of everything. Also, I believe at some point during the video, I was in fact not able to read my book. So now, in this next part of the video, I do in fact plan to more stick to the core stuff. For example, I touched on the UA Phoenix Sorcerer for those videos. This time I'm going to purely focus on the actual canon sorcerer classes. So that means, let's see here, what are the origins exactly? Here we go, sorcerer origins. Two categories, draconic and wild. And there's also, thanks to this book, divine, storm, and shadow. Now, shadow is something that my character in Lunar Guard Adventures is. It's due to the fact of his body reacting to the constant connection to the Shadowfell through his Warlock Pact. I thought it would be a nice little multi-class type of scenario. But anyway, let's get into it. Golden eyes flashing, a human stretches out her hand and unleashes the dragon fire that burns in her veins. As an inferno rages around her foes, leathery wings spread from her back, and she takes to the air. Long hair whipped by a conjured wind, a half-elf spreads his arms wide and throws his head back, lifting him momentarily off the ground. A wave of magic surges up in him, through him and out from him, in a mighty blast of lightning. Crouching behind a stalagmite, a halfling points a finger at a charging troglodyte. A blast of fire springs from her finger to strike the creature. She ducks back behind the rock formation with a grin, unaware that her wild magic has turned her skin bright blue. Sorcerers carry a magical birthright conveyed upon them by an exotic bloodline, some otherworldly influence or exposure to an unknown cosmic force. One can't study sorcery as one knows a language, any more than one can live a legendary life. No one chooses sorcery, the power chooses the sorcerer. Now, that, my folks, is one of the clear distinctions I like about sorcerers. Again, it's not my favourite magic using class. That will go to wizard and then warlock. But sorcerer has that flair to it. See, where a wizard, you have the whole hard studying person who really worked for their magic. And with warlocks, you have the cool, oh yeah, I make a pact with this ancient, powerful being, and you get like really cool abilities from it, like, and it adds that cool role playing element as well. As I said in my warlock video, you can't exactly just piss off your patron. Whereas a sorcerer, yeah, no, you're born with this power. You know, it's a really cool type of character. Like, if you want a character who's just magical, like, go with sorcerer. Magic is a part of every sorcerer, suffusing body, mind, and spirit with a latent power that waits to be tapped. Some sorcerers wield magic that springs from an ancient bloodline infused with the magic of dragons. Others carry raw, uncontrolled magic within them, a chaotic storm that manifests in unexpected ways. The appearance of a sorcerer's powers is widely unpredictable. Some draconic bloodlines produce exactly one sorcerer every generation, but in other lines of descent, every individual is a sorcerer. Most of the time, talents of sorcery appear as apparent flukes. Some sorcerers can't name the origins of their power, while others trace it to strange events in their own lives. The touch of demons, the blessings of a dryad at a baby's birth, or the taste of the waters from a mysterious spring might spark the gifts of sorcery. So too might the gift of a deity of magic, exposure to the elemental forces of the inner planes, or the maddening chaos of limbo, or a glimpse into the inner workings of reality. Sorcerers have no use for the spellbooks and ancient tomes of magic lore that wizards rely on, nor do they rely on a patron to grant their spells as warlocks do. By learning to harness and channel their own inborn magic, they discover new and staggering ways to unleash that power. Unexplained powers. Sorcerers are rare in the world, and it's unusual to find a sorcerer who is not involved in the adventuring life in some way. People with magical powers seething in their veins soon discover that the power doesn't like to stay quiet. A sorcerer's magic wants to be wielded, and it has a tendency to spill out in unexpected ways if it isn't being called on. Sorcerers often have obscure or quixotic motivations driving them to adventures. Some seek a greater understanding of the magical force that infused them, or the answer to the mystery of its origin. Others hope to find a way to get rid of it, or to unleash its full potential. Whatever their goals, sorcerers are every bit as useful to an adventuring party as wizards, making up for a comparative lack of breadth in their magical knowledge, with enormous flexibility in using the spells they know. That is quite true. See, whereas with wizards are sort of like Swiss Army knives, because they can collect all their spells. Now, technically, druids and paladins and clerics have access to all their spells from the get-go, but their spells are not as wide as say a wizard. A wizard, I believe, has the largest spell list in D&D, and they may not start off with all their spells. They through just leveling up, I believe they can reach only about actually I believe they reach around 40, because they get 2 new spells every level. That's 19, so that's 19 levels, so that's 19 times 2, that's 38, I like to say. 38, and then they start off with 6 spells. And that's not counting cantrips. So yeah, the wizards through leveling can pretty much collect, I think, about half their spells. And then if they get spell scrolls, they get to add to them. And this wide variety of large number of spells allows a wizard to pretty much have a spell for any occasion. The only question is how often they can prepare them. Sorcerers have a lot more limited spell range. Now, you could have sorcerers that focus on utility spells to help their party, but they also have a fair number of very powerful attack spells. Now, we'll get into it eventually, but sorcerers have a really cool mechanic that allows them a lot more flexibility with their spells. They can do things with their spells that wizards just simply cannot do. And we'll get into that at some point. Now, when creating a sorcerer, there's an important question that you need to answer yourself, and that is the origin of your power. As a starting character, you will choose an origin that ties to a draconic bloodline or the influence of wild magic. Now, there are new additions to this. That was read from the player's handbook, but there's not just those anymore. There's now 5. There's Divine, Storm, and Shadow. So you have to keep in mind. Now, what is the exact source of your power is up to you to decide. Is it a family curse passed down from distant ancestors, or did some extraordinary event leave you blessed with the inherent magic, perhaps scarred as well? How do you feel about your power? Do you embrace it? Do you try and master it? Or do you actually enjoy how unpredictable it is? Is it a blessing or a curse? Did you seek it out? Did it find you? Do you know how it happened? Now, do you want to try and get rid of it? Do you enjoy your abilities? You know, like, it's that type of stuff that you really should ask yourself. You know? Now, there's also... Now, again, dragon can be very fun because dragons have the innate spellcasting tag on in the monster manual, which means you can make dragon spellcasters. So, one cool aspect for a draconic sorcerer would be that maybe your mother or father was the only one that raised you, and then what's it called? One of your parents is actually a dragon. They used polymorph. They were hoping for maybe a female dragon was hoping to give birth to an actual dragon. Again, dragon reproduction is a bit of in the air because we don't know how it is. I'm glad they don't fill that information. But maybe a dragon was trying to get pregnant to have what's it called? A new dragon to introduce a new dragon into the world, or maybe create a dragonborn that would serve them. But instead, they got you. You know, a humanoid or a dragonborn or whatever that was born with this insane amount of power from their draconic bloodline. You know, there's so many cool things you can do. And then maybe your quest is to find your parent. You know, it's again, there's really cool things. I'm surprised they do not have an infernal sorcerer origin. I'm pretty sure I can find one online. But yeah, there's so many cool things you can do with sorcerers. They're really great. Now again, as I said, it's not my first choice as sorcerer, but I cannot, just because it's a class that I would not jump at playing, that does not mean it's a class that I would stick my nose up. Like again, as I said, cleric is the last class I would actually play, but I would enjoy the fucking hell out of it. You know, it's just that there's other classes that I would rather play. And I mentioned clerics are amazing in my cleric video. So now here's some quick build tips for your sorcerer. Now again, these are handy for if you're doing one shots or if you're not sure how to build your sorcerer and you're just looking for recommendations. First off, charisma should be your highest ability score, and that is because it is your spellcasting ability, similar to clerics and bards, and I believe warlocks. Now, actually, no, wait, are clerics not wisdom? Paladins are charisma. I think, hold on. Yeah. Clerics are wisdom, I believe, and paladins are charisma. Again, I might be wrong. Again, I have a bad memory. That's why I'm glad I have the books, and, you know, I have, you know, Pages Hotkeyed, especially on my PDF versions. And I'm glad that even then I have my phone, which is linked to my OneDrive, so I have access to all my stuff. But anyway, second, you should choose Constitution. Now again, people would argue that sorcerers are the most combative archetype for a pure caster in terms of the three arcanes. Sorry, no, the three pure arcanes. I call them the three pure arcanes because they harness arcane magic, and technically there's 4 arcane users: bard, warlock, sorcerer, and things. So yeah, 4. But I take these guys as the top 3. In my opinion, they're like the top 3 dogs of arcane magic mastery. Now, how should I put this? People say the sorcerer is the most combative of the 3. I would say warlock more so, but again, sorcerer, it can be there. So yeah, Constitution you might want to have as your second, and then you want to choose the hermit background. Maybe to come up with some strange reason why you're traveling, being isolated. You know. Then you can choose the light, prestidigitation, ray of frost, and shocking grasp cantrips. That's right, you get a lot of cantrips starting off as this class. And then your first level spell should be shield and the classic magic missile. Now, let's look at this quick build real quick. Light, great, especially if you're playing a sorcerer that has dark vision, because that way you can turn your dim light into bright light, or just so that you can help your allies. A very good utility spell. Prestidigitation, nice bit of flair, because again, as a sorcerer, you develop your magic through just pure practice, because you're born with it, whereas wizards do it through study. So instead of studying a book, you use prestidigitation to, like, I believe it has some side effects where you can create like sparks and whatnot. Also, if you're playing and if you like things clean, your character can literally just be cleaning himself up. I believe prestidigitation is also considered like a cantrip that casters use to practice their magic, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's a great little also cantrip. Ray of Frost, very handy. It's it's a great little range spell that you got there. And then Shocking Grasp, which is brilliant for if enemies do get into your melee range. You just literally touch them. It's basically Chidori from Naruto. And then as for your first level spells, Shield, amazing. You always want to have Shield if you're a caster, and maybe Mage Armor. This is really useful because if enemy hits you, you can be like, nope, Shield, cast it, and boom, you are protected. And then Magic Missile is a great first level spell because it's auto hits. Now they did change the rules, so you can't just cast Magic Missile into darkness. No, you need to see your opponent. So there you go. You need to actually see your opponent now for Magic Missile to work, which is brilliant. I hate those memes. Alright, now let's get into the nitty gritty. Class features. Your hit points your hit dice is a d6 per sorcerer level. Your hit points at first level is 6 plus your constitution modifier. Your hit points at higher levels, you can either roll a d6 and add your constitution modifier to that roll, or you can take 4 and add your constitution modifier to that 4. So again, depending on if you want to play it safe, but again, potentially if you could get like really high numbers, much higher than 4 if you roll. So again, it's a gamble. Now, your proficiencies are as follows. Armor, none. So you have no armor. That's why shield and mage armor is going to come in handy. Daggers. Your weapons will be daggers, darts, slings, quarterstaffs, and crossbows. I actually believe... light crossbows, sorry. I actually believe that's the same amount that a wizard gets. You have no proficiency in tools. Your saving throws are Constitution and Charisma. And your skills, you get to choose 2 from the following. Arcana, Deception, Insight, Intimidation, Persuasion, and Religion. Okay. Now, let's start off with cantrips. Okay. We'll start off with your sorcery points. That is the unique mechanic that sorcerers have. Now, sorcery points can be spent on a variety of ways. We'll get into that when we get into sorcery points later on. We're just going to talk about the total sorcery points. Okay. Now you get your first set of sorcery points at level 2. You can't really do much with it except for switching them into spell slots. And again, we'll get into that much later on. Let's see. Am I reading this right? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, actually, yeah, I am. Okay, sorcery points is going to be very easy to explain. Second level, you get 2 sorcery points, and third, you get 3. And from that point on, you're literally just adding 1 sorcery point to your sorcery point total every time you level up to a maximum of 20 when you reach level 20. I am so glad they kept that simple. Now, onto cantrips. Now, a sorcerer gets a lot of cantrips compared to other classes. Other classes would probably get at most 4 by level 20, I believe. Unless they have, special feats or whatever that gives them that. But again, some classes can, still do that same thing. Warlocks, I think, can add to their cantrip level by basically turning first level spells into cantrips through invocations. But yeah, sorcerers, just vanilla, get lots of cantrips. You start off with 4, and then at 4th level you get an additional 1, giving you a total of 5. And then at 10th level you reach your maximum number of cantrips with a total of 6. So that is 6 cantrips. And remember, cantrips can be done as many times a day. So therefore, like, having lots of cantrips gives you a variety of things. You can pick utility ones, you can pick combat ones. For me, I like the idea of having at least one attack cantrip of every damage type if I can. Especially for the elementals like fire, ice, whatever. Now again, you can't get all of them unless you spend all your attack. But the main ones I would focus on would be fire, ice, thunder. And if you want, you could go with necrotic. I love using necrotic magic. I describe it as, I like the idea of it. Again, I like dark anti-hero type characters, and that's what I like to play as. So that's what I go for. Jessica in the Lunar Guard, she goes for fire, for example, pure fire, and that's because she wants to make it like a really crazy pyromaniac type of character, and I respect that. And if she's having fun with it, let her. That's what I would. I'm just saying what I would do. Anyway, so that is cantrips. There again, you get up to 6. Now for spells known. You start off with 2. Let me just double check this maths. Okay, that's where it starts getting a bit difficult. Okay, from level 1 you start off with 2, and then all the way up to level 11 you get 1 additional spell each time you level up. Now, when you level up, you can choose to take a new spell, or you can also not only when you gain a new spell, you can also choose to replace a spell that you know. So for example, you start off with, let me get my Xanathar's Guide real quick. I'll pick out a first level spell from Xanathar's Guide. Where are they? Nope, down there. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting, spells are in the back of Xanathar's Guide. Here it is, spells list. Sorcerer spells. Okay, let's say you have Ice Knife, right? Now you're using Ice Knife, you're having fun with it, and then you reach level 2. And there's like, I don't want Ice Knife anymore. I'm gonna replace it with. Now you do get in a new spell. Let's say as your new spell you take Absorb Elements, but you don't want Ice Knife anymore. Instead, you want Chaos Bolt. You can instead of picking Chaos Bolt and forgetting to take and not taking Absorb Elements, you instead can be like, okay, I will forget Ice Knife and take Absorb Elements. Now again, you can only do this every time you level up your sorcerer class. So once you reach level 20, folks, when you reach level 19, you need to have you need to write down every spell that you would want for level 20, because level 20 is going to be the last time you can swap out your spells. Now you will so yeah, just keep that in mind. But you will do get a total of 15 spells. So yeah, so from level, I want to get that out of the way, sorry folks. So yeah, so from 1 to 11 you get 1 additional new spell, and then from level 11 and 12 you have 12. Then from 13 to 14 you have 13 spells. From 15 to 16, 14, and then at level 17 you get your final spell, total spells at 15. Now again, from 17 to 20 you can still swap out spells, so keep that in mind. Now, in terms of spell slots, you start off with 2 spell slots. At first level you get an additional one at third, and additional one at fourth. Sorry, additional one at second and additional one at third level. Now, when you reach third level, I believe that you have now reached the max of first level spells slots that you will get. Is that the same as Wizard and Warlock? Not counting Warlock, because Warlock always casts at maximum level. Yeah, that is the same. So yeah, that it looks like. Hold on, let me zoom in on this image. I'm gonna get these images side by side because I'm now actually curious about them. Okay, there we go. Get them side by side. Let me take a look at these spell slots. Okay, 4, 3, 2. Okay, yeah, it's the same. It's the same amount of spell slots as a wizard gets. Okay. Anyway, so so by third level you reached your maximum number of first level spell slots. Now again, these are pretty handy. I prefer using spell points, which are different than sorcery points, so don't get them confused. Spell points is much more of a traditional mana system in video games. It's in the DMG. It's a really cool system. It allows for a lot more flexibility with your low level casting, but your higher level casting does take a hit because which again eventually I'll get into when I get into my Dungeon Masters guide videos, where I talk about some of my own ideas of rulings and whatnot. Now, at when you reach third level, you will get access to second level spells, and you start off with 2 second level spell slots, and then at fourth level you reach your max, which 3. So by level 4, you should have a total of 4 first level spell slots and 3 second level spell slots. Now that is your max. Yeah, that is your max spell slots for first and second. And then for I actually opened up the wrong picture. No, come on, where's the right picture? There we go. We just closed that other one. There we go. Alright. And then at 5th level you will get your third level spell slots. You start off once again with 2, and then you get your third level spell slot at level 6, and that is your max for that point. Now here's where it gets a little bit more distance. At 7th level you get access to your 4th level spells, as well as your first 4th level spell slot. This breaks the pattern of always starting off with 2. Instead you start off with 1. You get your second one at 8, and then you get your third one at 9th, which is your max number for 4th level. At 9th you also get access to your 5th level spells, and then at 10th level you get your second spell slot for 5th level spells, and then at level 18 you reach 3 5th level spell slots. You get access to your 6th level spells and spell slots at a level 11. Then you only have 1 all the way down to 19th level when you get your second 6th level spell slot. Your 7th level spells are accessed at level 13. You only have 1 until level 20 when you get your second 7th level spell slot. And once you reach level 15 you get your first 8th level spell slot. You only get one of these for the remainder of the game, so you will not get an increase in spell slots. And then at 9th level, at 7th level, 17th level, you get access to your 9th level spells, and you can only cast one of those per long rest for the remainder of 20th level. Now I believe you can convert. Now remember how I talked about sorcery points being spent to turn into spell slots? That does have a max. Its max is 5th level spells. So yeah, you won't be able to break the chain with the 6th to 9th. But anyway, let's get into your class features. Now that we have the tables out of the way. As you know, folks, if you remember, I like to get the tables out of the way so we can go straight into the nitty-gritty of things. Now, I forgot about your starting equipment. Sorry. If you choose to starting equipment for your sorcerer, you can start off with a light crossbow and 20 bolts, or any simple weapon. Which is weird considering you don't have proficiency in all simple weapons. You can start off with a component pouch or an arcane focus. You can start off with a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack, and you automatically start off with 2 daggers. I don't know why 2, but you start off with 2 daggers. Now, let's see here. Font of Magic. Now this is where you get your sorcery points. At 2nd level, you tap into deep wellspring of magic within yourself. This wellspring is represented by sorcery points, which allow you to create a variety of magical effects. Now, At level 2, the only thing you can really do is called flexible casting. You can use your sorcery points to gain additional spell slots, or sacrifice spell slots to gain additional sorcery points. You learn other ways to use your sorcery points when you reach higher levels. You can transform, creating a spell slot. You can transform unexpended sorcery points into one spell slot as a bonus action on your turn. Creating spell slot tables shows you the cost of creating spell slots of a given level. You can create spell slots no higher than 5th level. So there you go, folks, that is the max. To create a first level spell slot, you need to spend 2 sorcery points, which you start off with. Now again, already that gives you more casting than a sorcerer. Sorry, a wizard, who could only cast 3 after he takes a short rest and uses his arcane focus. Whereas with you, you're just like, yep, boom, I get an additional spell, yay! Now, in order to create a second level spell slot, it requires you to spend 3 sorcery points. To create a third, you need to spend 5 sorcery points. To create a fourth, you need to spend 6, and to create a fifth, you need 7. Now remember, you get a total of 20 sorcery points at this point. Now, to convert, you can go backwards as well. Converting a spell slot to a sorcery point as a bonus action on your turn, you can expend 1 spell slot and gain a number of sorcery points equal to that slot's level. So, now again, this is where I like spell points, because in order to get like higher level, I believe you can go above your max spell points, I believe. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But let's say you run out of second level spell slots. You would have to then, on 2 turns, use your bonus action to convert all your first level spell slots into sorcery points, and then you need to then, on your next turn, turn those sorcery points into spell slots in order to turn them into a second level spell slot in order to cast another second level spell slot. With spell points, instead, all you have to do is literally bonus action, boom. Now again, I got into a debate with one of my friends. He was not okay with spell points at first, because we discussed that it takes away what a sorcerer can do. I was like, no, it actually adds to them. And my explanation was, now again, as I said, a sorcerer would have to spend 2 turns to turn all that stuff into a second level spell slot. Whereas if with spell points, he literally just turns all those spell points. He will literally just spend his sorcery points and turn them into SP. I'm going to refer to spell points as SP. So he would turn all his sorcery points into SP, and then just simply cast the second level spell all in one turn. He wouldn't have to take that extra step to reconvert them back into a spell slot of a higher level. That's why I like spell points, because they really cut down on thing. And also instead of managing multiple resources of spell slots, you just have to resource manage one magic source. And again, I prefer it. I know some people don't, but that's my opinion. Meta magic. Now this is where you get level 3. Now you get really cool meta magic choices. Okay, you can at this level you gain 2 following meta magic options of your choice, and you gain another one at 10th and another at 17th level. So a total of 4. You can only use 1 meta magic option on a spell when you cast it, unless otherwise noted. Now here we go. Here's the meta magic. You get a total of 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 options, so you can get half your options. The first is Careful Spell. Now this one is useful if you're big into using AoE spells, such as Fireball. So Lux, if you're watching, pick Careful Spell. Because when you chuck let's say you chuck a Fireball, but you have a whole bunch of allies that are in melee with the mob, right? That you're casting at. Now you can spend 1 sorcery point and choose a number of creatures. And again, this is only 1 sorcery point. This is literally only a 1 point sorcery point cost, but you get to choose multiple of those creatures up to your charisma modifier. Minimum 1 chosen creatures automatically succeed in the saving throws. Now they will still take damage, but at least this way, when she chose that fireball, she has a charisma boost of I think 3 or 4. So, and there's generally only 3 or 4 of us that will be in melee range with the enemy. She can choose all of us to automatically pass and take half damage, whereas then the rest of the enemy will have to still roll. Distance spell is great. If you have a spell that has 5 reach or greater, you can spend 1 sorcery point to double the range. And when you cast a spell that has a range of touch, you can spend 1 sorcery point to make that range 30 feet. So Shocking Grasp, which was a touch spell, now actually can turn into a 30-foot distance spell. Really handy. And again, spells like Scorching Ray, which has a range of 120, now has a range of 240. Empowered Spell, you can spend 1 sorcery point to reroll the number of damage dice up to your charisma modifier once. You must use the new rolls. So let's say you roll damage. Let's say you roll 3d6, you get all 2s, so that's 6 damage instead of potentially reaching higher. You can be like, okay, I want to reroll all these dice. Boom, 1 sorcery point, you reroll all of them. Or, so let's say you get 6, 6, and 1 from those 3 dice. You can choose to only reroll that 1, and you get guaranteed higher damage unless you roll another 1. Extended Spell is useful for those of you that like using shield, mage armor, because for 1 you can spend 1 sorcery point to turn a spell. Oh, I do have to have 1 minute or longer, so yeah, sadly shield does not count for this, but mage armor does. Mage armor has a normal hold on folks, I'm just going to mute my mic real quick. Alright, sorry about that folks, we'll have to wrap this up quickly because I have to do something. Okay. Extend spells. Let's say I have Mage Armor. That normally lasts 8 hours. Now I have a friend who's playing a UA Sorcerer Origin called Sea Origin. Now what he does is he likes to spend a sorcery point on his Mage Armor because it turns it from an 8-hour cast duration to a 16-hour cast duration. Very useful. Now it cannot go to. It has a maximum duration of 24 hours. So therefore, if you have a spell that's for 24 hours, you can't double it. But you could reach 24 hours, which is not bad for 1 sorcery point. You know, and that means your mage armor. He does not have to worry about mage armor at all. Now I'm afraid that would only work when he's casting the spell. I would say he cannot do it if he's casting mage armor from like the Staff of Protection, which allows you to cast mage armor or what's it called, shield from the staff. So yeah, I would not count for those, in my opinion. Heightened Spell. Now this is a bit of a big one. When you cast a spell that forces the creature to make a saving throw to resist its effects, you can spend 3 sorcery points to give 1 target of the spell disadvantage on its first saving throw made against the spell. That can be really useful. It depends on the spell. There are some spells that are purely saving throws and they're really dangerous, so that's why it could be handy to have that. There's Quicken Spell. This is the bread and butter of I've seen most casters go for this because it's so handy. When you cast a spell, you can spend 1 sorcery point to cast it without any. Sorry, that's another one. Sorry. When you have a spell that has a cast time of 1 action, you can spend 2 sorcery points to change the casting time to 1 bonus action instead. Now, this still only allows you to cast only 1 spell per combat. There is no ifs or buts about it. The rules specifically say you can only cast 1 spell a turn. But this is handy for sorcerers who are trying to be also in melee. So you can literally be like, okay, I'll spend 2 sorcery points to cast a spell, then I'll hit the person. You get subtle spell, which is very handy for if you're trying to play a sorcerer who likes stealth. You can spend 1 sorcery point to cast a spell without any somatic or verbal components. This is also very useful if your sorcerer gets into a situation where they're being grappled, because instead of you're being restrained, so that means instead of needing to speak or to move your hands to cast a spell, you can just be like, boom, I cast a spell. You know, so even if so that's handy for shocking grasp, for example, like because you can't move, or for teleport. The last one you get, folks, is Twinned Spell. When you cast a spell that targets only one creature that doesn't have a range of self, you can spend a number of sorcery points equal to the spell's level to target a second creature in range with the same spell. 1 sorcery point if the spell is a cantrip. So yeah, that's really useful. It sort of breaks the rule of you can only cast 1 spell a turn, because this is allowing you to duplicate the same spell. So Scorching Ray with Twin Spell allows you to target up to 6 targets instead. Next, folks, we have our ASI at level 4, 8, 12th, and 16th and 19th level. I would like to... Oh yeah, the last thing is, now your sorcery points normally recharge... let's see, when do your sorcery points recharge? You gain all sorcery points when you finish a long rest. And also, sorry folks, I forgot to mention it, spell slots. Spell slots also recharge on a long rest for sorcerers. Now, I'm afraid, folks, I am running out of time. I have to do some. I will do other videos featuring the different origins. So there'll be 5 more videos to the sorcerer if need be. I will try and have it be 2 origins per video, or try and do it like the 2 books very quickly. But the last thing I'll touch on in this video exactly is your final ability that you get at level 20. Again, like the cleric, your abilities that you get as you level up really depend on your origin. So that's why I've only talked about meta magic, sorcery points, and this last ability called Sorceress Restoration. At 20th level, you regain 4 expended sorcery points whenever you finish a short rest. So basically it increases your chances of having a thing. Now again, a short rest can be multiple things. You literally just have to spend an hour doing light activities such as walking, reading, or whatever. So technically, depending on how many hours are going by with no combat and you're just walking and shopping, I would allow a person to treat that as multiple short rests. And therefore the person can recharge, potentially a sorcerer at 20th level could recharge all their sorcery points at this point. Now, the next video should focus on wild magic and draconic origin. Then the next video will hopefully feature the other 3. Sadly, I don't have much more time for this, so this will be Wilful Ninja signing out. May the force be with you, and remember, roll for initiative.